Revenge films.
I'm Emily, married and 28 years old. I work at a local casual restaurant. My husband Tom is an office worker, but his income isn't enough to support us both, so I work to make ends meet. Tom is rather careless with money, so I manage the household finances. He had no concerns about it, but made sure he had a good time. Recently, he often said something like,
"Why don't you put on some makeup and get your nails done?"
Although he never said anything about my appearance before. Since we handled food, we were not allowed to wear heavy makeup or nail polish at work. But he complained about my appearance every time he saw me. At first, I just ignored those comments, but lately his words have become more and more harsh. I couldn't help feeling my growing frustration. One day, we were going to have dinner at his parents' house, and we went to a mall to buy a gift for them. As we entered the building, he started walking faster as if he wanted to distance himself from me. I caught up with him and said, "Hey, slow down. Why are you walking so fast?"
"Don't get so close to me. You're so plain and not attractive at all. I don't want to be seen as your husband."
I was shocked to hear that. As we passed by a woman, he said,
"Isn't she pretty? You should try to be like that too."
His careless words hurt me. I didn't want to make a scene in public, so I sealed my lips, but as soon as we got back to the car, I couldn't help but bursting into a rage. "I can't take this anymore." And he said,
"It's your fault. You should try to be more womanly."
He didn't say any more, no matter what I said. We arrived at his parents' house dragging our tense feelings. He continued to insult my appearance in front of his parents and sister. When he got drunk, that escalated.
"I should never have married someone like her. She's not feminine at all. She makes no effort to look beautiful and never puts on makeup. She has no interest in getting her nails done or going to the spa. I don't want somebody who forgot how to be a woman for my wife."
When I heard his heartless words, I couldn't find a word to respond anymore. I just got depressed and stayed quiet. Then my sister-in-law, Julie, shouted at him suddenly. "You should think about what you're saying hard. Emily works at a restaurant to support both of you. She can't wear makeup or have her nails done if she wants to." Then she told him to apologize to me.
"I just want my wife to look prettier, like Romy next door."
He took a glance at me for a moment and looked away. That gave me an eerie feeling, and I started thinking about checking his whereabouts. The dinner didn't go well because the siblings kept arguing. When I got home, I got a call from Julie. She said, "I am ashamed to have a brother like that." She apologized to me sincerely. She was also kind enough to tell me that if there was anything she could do to help me, she would do so. That made me feel better and realize that I should start investigating. If Tom was doing something wrong, it had to be when I was out for work. So I told him I would go to work when I was actually off and watched him. As soon as I left home, I saw Romy, who lives next door, come to our house. She opened the door as if she would come into her own house, and she didn't come out for a while. It didn't look like she had any business at my house. I decided to sneak into the house, but they were not in the living room. A bad feeling led me to reach the bedroom door, and there I found Tom and Romy in our bed smooching. Without thinking, I found myself taking some pictures of the two, and I shouted at them, "What's going on here?" They jumped off the bed. They were naked. I made sure to take that picture as well. "We need to talk, including your husband, Romy." Then she said, "Please, don't tell my husband." As she grabbed my arm, I noticed her shiny nails, which made me furious. I found myself saying, "I am filing for divorce, and you will pay for this." And I just left. Tom followed me and said,
"Wait, I'm sorry. It was a mistake."
"Stay away from me, you filthy bastard." And I ran. Once out, I immediately called Julie. I told her what had just happened, and she said she would come over for the talk, along with her parents. I got a hold of Romy's husband, Dylan, as he came home, and we talked at our house. Dylan seemed to have no clue.
Can anyone explain this to me?
Romy, why don't you tell it to your husband? Romy couldn't say a word. Tears flowed down her cheek, so I had to explain it to him, showing him the photos as evidence. He was very upset and shouted at Romy.
What are these? Explain to me!
Romy started telling the story crying. Tom took advantage of my irregular work schedule and invited Romy over to my house while I was at work. They both insisted that the other had initiated. There was no way of knowing what had actually happened. It didn't make much difference, though. An affair is an affair. It was unforgivable. All this time, Tom had compared me and Romy and insulted my appearance. No amount of excuses or apologies would change my mind. I said flatly, I'm filing for divorce.
You're going too far. Besides, how are you going to make a living without me?
So I grabbed my notebook for the household finances and showed it to him in front of everybody. It proved that my income exceeded his and I could live comfortably by myself. Tom couldn't say anything. I felt bad about Emily when you two came over for dinner the other day. Emily, you would be better off without him. I'm going to cut ties with him too. Feeling unbearable to be cut ties from his own family, he apologized and expressed remorse. But there was no response in the room. Please, don't ever call me again. Julie's words were the last we heard that day, and they left. I moved out of the house and started living on my own while filing for divorce. My finances have been stable with the compensation coming in through Tom and Romy. Not only was Romy kicked out of her house by Dylan, but she also had to pay him compensation. Dylan's high income allowed her to be a housewife for many years, but now she owed money to me and him. She had to borrow a large amount of money from her family and friends. She worked multiple part-time jobs to pay off her debts, but she was barely able to pay them back and struggled to make ends meet. Gradually, the people around her started to distance themselves from her, and she ended up isolated and miserable. As for Tom, he got cut off from all family ties and lived alone. He realized he couldn't support himself by his only income and asked me for help. I didn't even respond. I'm free and happy. Tom didn't want to run into Dylan in the neighborhood and wanted to move out, but he couldn't afford it and stayed in the house. The story of his affair spread in the neighborhood, but he had to endure people's cold stares and lived there with a tight budget. I increased my hours at work after the divorce. After a while, I had enough money, so I bought a new car. I enjoy driving my new car on my day off. I started thinking about meeting someone new and my next life plans. I'm trying to be decently feminine, not for somebody else, but for my own sake.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.